Hey guys, today we are going to take a little peek into my kids' academic planners. I've got them right here. This is Diego's and this is Francisca's. Right off the bat, we do all of their scheduling and everything, keeping track of what we're gonna do, making plans. We do it all on paper. Maybe it's because I'm kind of an antique. I am among the oldest of millennials. It's weird to think that I'm a millennial. I feel older than that. But I just cannot do things without doing it with my hand. Something about doing things with the screen, the beta waves kind of take over, the focus goes away, and I just totally forget. So everything is on paper. I'm surrounded by stuff. I've got stuff back there and I've got stuff down here. So let's just jump right in. We're going to look at Diego. Well, yeah, we're going to look at Diego's first. Diego is for the 23-24 school year. He's in 7th grade. He's 13 years old, but he barely missed the cutoff. You know, there is something I know a lot of, I think, is it the Low countries, some like Western European countries, they push back on putting kids into like formal education when they're 5, like we tend to do here in the States. And so Diego really didn't start his like formal official education till he was 6. I think that's actually benefited him. But anyway, so he's 13 and he's in 7th grade, which is weird to me. Instead of giving a lot of background before we look at the planner, I'm going to show you and we'll just give some background as we go. So I'm going to hold this up. This is a week. His planner is actually an academic planner, and so the days go along the left side of the page Monday through Friday, and they go all the way across. There is not really a Saturday and Sunday on here, so toward the end you can see I put a Saturday and a Sunday, and then we have notes over there. We have just a spot for him to write down what he's earned for the week. I pay him commissions for doing like extra things around the house, not taking care of himself things, and not like just helping the family things, extra things. And then we also pay him to help in our business. He does some editing. He also helps with package delivery. Because he has braces and the PETA factor is extremely high, I pay him to floss his teeth, just 25 cents a night. He tracks that here with tally marks. You can also see to the side, I make some notes. With his planner, you can see just the structure of it, the way that it came. There are colored columns. So the first column where it says Monday to Tuesday 3, this is the upcoming week. That column, I use that as kind of like a timeline. So if we have any appointments, any classes, anything planned that is at like a specific time, I write it in there. So you can see, for example, this upcoming week on Wednesday evening, he has hip hop from 7:45 to 8:30. That's pretty straightforward. The next column, which is the white column, that's mostly what I would consider his solo work. He doesn't have to do all of it by himself. If he needs help, or if there's like a video lesson that, you know, we'll watch together, then it's not necessarily solo, but it's things in this column that he is not going to be doing with his sister. Like they're separate in that way. So solo from each other, but not necessarily solo from me. Just going right down, you can see ALG 1 is Algebra 1. He's in Algebra 1 right now. He's doing Demi Learning, Matthew C, their Algebra 1 curriculum. There are 30 lessons. Typically, you would do a lesson a week. You can go a little slower. I guess you could go a little faster depending on how intense you are, but really, one lesson a week seems to be plenty. There's a part A, which is intended to be done over a couple of days. There's a part B, which is also intended to be done over a couple of days. And then at the end, there's a lesson test, and there's also a targeted review. And I think the targeted review kind of it pulls in not just that lesson, but some concepts from previous lessons. Because this is upper math, there's like a sheet with the rubric to help you know if you're ready to move forward or not. This is the mastery check rubric. It's really, really helpful. And then on the other side is a formula sheet with all of the formulas, and it's laminated with all of the formulas for Algebra 1 that he'll need to know. We also have a graphing calculator. He has a TI-83 Plus. We went ahead and bought both of our kids TI-83 Pluses last school year, and My Tech High did pay for that. I try to keep my kids as separate as possible, so while we could have just bought one graphing calculator and just had them share it, I feel like there's a dignity and a feeling of freedom that comes from having your own supplies and being able to do things in your own way. So you can see over the span of the week, you know, Monday he has Algebra 1 and he's on lesson 4. He just started it a month ago. On Monday and Tuesday, he has 4A. Then Wednesday and Thursday, he has 4B. On Friday, he has just 4 done. So that would be lesson tests and then the targeted review and just checking the rubric to make sure he's ready to move forward. One of the great things with the Algebra 1 Math UC program is if they're not ready to move forward, you can go into their portal and print off more practice sheets, which is just, it's fantastic. Now with math, that just keeps moving forward all the time. If he's sick, for example, this last week, my daughter was sick. She picked something up at a party and I knew it was going to happen, but that's okay. She was sick, so like last week, she didn't really do much math. I think she did 1 page of math. So this upcoming week, we're just not moving forward. We'll just keep going. So when we're well, we go at our regular pace. When we're not well or on vacation or something else, you know, doing a project instead, we just set it to the side for that day or for that couple of days and then keep moving forward. Math just moves forward. He's in Algebra 1 now. He'll do geometry and then we'll assess. I'd like him to do Algebra 2, even if he does 1 lesson over the span of 2 weeks and takes just over a year to get it done. I think I would like him to do that versus just not doing it at all. But he has a lot of things going on in his life. He has a lot of plans and ambitions. And you know, some things he can't do till he's 15. He can't get a job. He can't do a lot of things. But once he's 15, the world is really going to open up to him and we'll just see where we're at that time for Algebra 2. But so that's math. Next you see AG 1. And that's Analytical Grammar 1. Right now, he's going through a grammar curriculum. He's already done spelling. He's done a lot of writing and reading and things like that. So now we're just going through grammar. Analytical Grammar is a curriculum that is also put out by Demi Learning. This is the workbook for Analytical Grammar 1. I believe Analytical Grammar has 4 levels. They all are varying lengths. Each lesson also in this, I think, is intended to take about a week. And Analytical Grammar 1, I think, has 11. I think it has 11 different lessons. So you do it in 11 weeks. All 4 together, I can't remember how many lessons it is, but it's probably between 30 and 40. So we're just doing 1 lesson a week. It's meant to take 4 or 5 days. We'll get into it in just a sec. We're just going to keep going along. And so when he finishes grammar, he's going to move forward to another program from Demi Learning called Write Shop, Write, W-R-I-T-E. And I don't have those materials yet because I don't want to get too ahead of myself. But Write Shop is talking about, you know, it's just going over different styles of writing, persuasive writing, business writing, formal writing. He's actually a very good writer. He's written multiple stories. He's done persuasive writing. He edits some of my husband's writing in our business, and he does an exceptionally good job. It's more just to check the box and make sure that we didn't miss anything. In some ways, this grammar curriculum is very easy for him. However, he is learning how to diagram sentences. I actually never learned growing up in California in the different school districts that I grew up in. With Analytical Grammar, each lesson is broken into different parts. So this week he's going to be on lesson 7, which is sentence patterns 1 and 2. This is meant to be done kind of with a guide and kind of on your own. We open it up. I read the student notes with him, which is just almost like what you would consider the lecture portion. Each lesson is not a big step. It's a little step forward so that it's meant to be manageable and not overwhelming and very difficult. You have, basically this is meant to take 5 days as well. The lesson that you read through together. And then you have A, B, and C, which would be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which is just doing exercises and practicing. You know, it could be as basic, it's not, but as basic as identifying the noun and the adjective, the subject and the action. A, B, and C are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Day 4 is playing with words, which is starting to play with the concept a little more than just read this sentence, identify the things. The last day is called the assessment. It's almost kind of like a test just to make sure that they really know what an adjective is or what a noun is, or sentence patterns just to make sure they know sentence patterns 1 and 2, whatever the case may be. I should say math, it depends on how hard it is, how long it takes, but my goal is for math to take about 30 minutes a day. When we watch the video lessons with math, it's definitely longer than that. If we can do 30, definitely under an hour per day on math, then I'm happy with that. Analytical grammar, each day is meant to only be like 10 or 15 minutes. It's more about the repetition and the practice than it is the length of time. Kind of like learning cursive and a number of other things. You don't need to do cursive for an hour every day to learn it, but just having a little bit of practice every day, over time, pretty quickly you pick it up. So it's more about the frequency than the quantity of time per time, if that makes sense. Going back to his planner, now we're looking at Duo. So it says Duo, Latin, 15. I've always wanted my kids to learn a foreign language. I don't really care if they become fluent in one or if they have a pretty good amount of familiarity with multiple, in the same way that music feeds your brain and makes you smarter in so many different ways. I believe that language is that way. You learn how to say things in different ways. You think differently. You know, when you're learning another language, you actually think differently about things, and it makes you think about the words in your native language in English, like, why do we say it that way? Or, oh, that's interesting. Like, I'm not just gonna, like, contextually, like, oh, that's just how it is. Like, your context of the world expands, and you see your native language and your way of thinking as only one way of doing it and not the way of doing it. He is doing Latin, which is helpful with history, with philosophy, with science, of course. Just understanding where a lot of our English words came from. Latin is kind of like a parent language for a lot of different things, and if you don't have even like a baseline understanding of Latin, there's just so much of the world that's just not available to you. Mondays and Wednesdays, he does Latin, and he only does it for 15 minutes. Again, I feel like it's more frequency than quantity at this point. If he decides that he wants to go deeper and further with it, he'll shed some other things and put more time and more brain power into it. But for now, I feel like just 15 minutes a day, like, it's amazing how much we can go back and forth with Spanish, and how much he can tell us when we're reading other things in Latin, what different things mean. Speaking of Duolingo, so then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, he does Spanish for 15 minutes. Spanish he's been doing longer than he's been doing Latin. His understanding is really actually quite incredible. Language is something that we do year round because you don't want to lose it. He just keeps going with it. Having done Spanish for a few years, like, it's pretty amazing what he knows and what he can say and what he can understand. Keeping on down, I have read for 40 minutes. Their reading time is probably one of their most favorite things that they do. They can read whatever they want. They can read below reading level, which they both do sometimes. They can read at their reading level. They can read above reading level. They'll just read anything, and Francisca in the last couple of years has increased a lot on her reading, her desire to read, and her understanding and her writing and everything. She is definitely a storyteller. She's a writer. She's written a lot of books. She loves coming up with new stories. She loves reading the Little House series. She's really into that right now. We've been reading The Fountainhead as a family. Ayn Rand, look at her. Actually, Francisca's name is from Atlas Shrugged, which was also written by Ayn Rand. There's other inspirations too, but that's one of them for sure. So when they read, when he has his 40 minutes of reading time, I don't judge it. I don't have an opinion about it. He has a personal timer and he sets it, and I should have brought the personal timers up. We use personal timers a lot. If, you know, he has 40 minutes of reading time, he sets his timer for 40 minutes. And if, while he's reading, Francisca's like, hey, I need an activity break. Do you want to go walk to the creek with me or go ride our bikes around the block or something? And he says yes. He can just pause his timer, and then when he comes back, he can just start it again and not lose any time. The personal timers give them a lot of freedom. I ran downstairs. I had to grab one. This is Diego's personal timer. See, it has the magnet on the back, this little leg that comes out so you can set it on a desk. It's just a little device. You can throw it in a bag, take it with you on the road, but it's really helped them a lot in terms of making sure that they get everything done, especially things that are tied to time, but also having the freedom to switch gears if they want to switch gears into a different activity. And the last thing that you see on here is run 3 miles. So what it actually will say is fitness. On Wednesdays, you can see fitness or run 3 miles isn't on there because hip hop. Thing with fitness is with Francisca, with them as children, it's just, you need to be active for an hour every day. You need to get your breath, you know, your heavy breathing going. You need to work your body really hard. That might be carrying a pile of books around. I know I got to work out bringing all these books and things upstairs. So sometimes fitness is on their morning list or their daily list, and sometimes I put it in their planners, but it's just about being fit. Now that Diego is 13 and he's a teenager, he's got hormones, he's got all this energy, he's got lots of different feelings. I want him to have really healthy, constructive ways to like get it out and use that energy. We have that. So in the morning, we actually, this isn't in the planner, but we get up and we do strength training together. Mike, Diego, and me, 6:30 in the morning, Monday through Friday. Running the elliptical is what we do. Now, he doesn't actually have to run the 3 miles if he ends up being active outside for an hour, but assuming he's not active outside for an hour or half an hour or whatever, he needs to run 3 miles. So this is more like a backstop. If you didn't do anything else, you need to do that. My kids actually don't mind their elliptical time because we tend to pair something you have to do and something you want to do together to kind of make the good things happen and make the productive things happen and the fun things happen all together. For example, we don't do a lot of screen time. We don't do a lot of just sitting, watching TV, things like that. It's actually funny I'm saying that because right now Francisca is watching Indiana Jones and Mike and Diego are at their book club meeting right now. They went for a hike this morning. When they run on the elliptical, they can watch anything they want. I won't judge it. They really love it. But they do have to hit like a good time. They can't just slow down. But I don't tell them how hard to run, to have an incline or not, to have resistance or not. That's their business. It's their body. For me, it's just more about the distance that they run. Those are his solo things that he has to do. Not overwhelming, just the tortoise and the hare, right? Just keep moving forward. Over to the right, you see I have things written down, and those are more together things that I do with the kids, and Diego and Francisca, we do together. Let me back up. Duolingo. Duolingo, this is Diego's iPad, and so this is something that he does use his iPad for. My kids both have iPads for some things. We are not tech heavy. I feel like it's an addiction, and it's like we only use tech so much as we need to for what we're doing, like where it makes sense, but we really are not tech heavy because I think I think we're gonna find a couple of decades from now how undeveloped a lot of people are because a lot of their learning was just something from a screen through their eyes and their ears to their brain, and their body was not really all that involved. I think we're gonna find that with the body not being involved, you're not actually really learning as much. Duolingo, he has that, and my kids, I don't have his headphones, but I have Francisca's and mine. They each have a pair of Bose headphones. Again, my tech high paid for this. And you can see Fran has there we go. She's got a rose gold ribbon on hers to just identify it, and I have this big obnoxious neon ribbon on mine. He wears his headphones, and that's how he does Duolingo. Oh, okay, so back to reading. Reading, they can sit anywhere they want. We've got swings outside, we've got hammocks, a lawn, we have a reading nook, they have their bedrooms, we have a couple of couches downstairs, so they can read anywhere they want. And if they want to go a little longer than the time in their planners, if Diego wants to read for an hour because he's really into a book, that's fine with me. They can even get a day ahead. He's reading, for example, Percy Jackson and the Chalice of the Gods, probably book one of a new trilogy, just came out last week. We are big, massive fans of Percy Jackson around here. If you have not read the series, there are 2 trilogies and some side stories. You need to get on it. It is so good. So good. We got this, and so he did all of his 40 minutes of reading time, and he was just like, I don't want to put it down. He does have to get, like, for example, all of his Monday things. He has to get all of his Monday things done on Monday. After that, he can get ahead if he wants to. So he just kept reading, and then he crossed off reading for the next day when he was reading this. So the next day, he can read if he wants to, but he doesn't have to. I only allow my kids to get 1 week ahead with their academics, and so far they haven't really done it. He has some struggles, we all do, with, getting up and just jumping right into it. He has so many things that he wants to do. First thing in the morning when he gets up, he would really love to be able to do his academics more on his terms. Had a little bit of a battle with that, and talking about boundaries and how, okay, my boundaries are here. You can do anything inside, but you keep bumping into the fence. So why don't you establish your own boundary within my fence so that you don't keep bumping into it and your life is more peaceful? And he's like, okay. So I explained, with your academics, if you get 1 day ahead on your solo academics, then when you wake up, the morning that you wake up, today's academics are already done. You're free. Do whatever you want. I can't get on you for that. He realized, oh my God. Yeah. And then I could just do tomorrow's academics in the afternoon. And then, yes, I still do academics every day, but now I'm doing it on my timing and not my mom's. And it had never crossed his mind. Oh, if I just get a little bit ahead, just a day ahead, then it's almost as if my mom isn't even giving me boundaries because I'm giving myself boundaries, right? Like filing for taxes. You can wait till April 15th. See, I don't even know the day. April 15th if you want. For my husband and myself, we file in March. Because that's our deadline, the government's deadline doesn't even matter. Obviously, we only have that deadline because of the government's deadline, but still, it's our deadline. Let's go to the next column. So the next column over to the right, but on the first page, together activities. Some of these activities, Diego may not be all that interested in because he's already kind of got it. And some of the activities Francisca may not totally understand, or she may just be kind of listening, but these are things that we do together. I have these kind of broken out by day. The first thing says TT Market, Tuttle Twins Market. This is a Tuttle Twins, by the way, the Tuttle Twins, everything is awesome. Jump into it, invest in it. It'll be worth your money and your time. We've had this for a while. I don't know if you can really see that. Core Curriculum Tuttle Twins. These are units 1 through 10, and I think they've done units up through 30 now, maybe 40, but I'm pretty sure at least 30. This is the Tuttle Twins Present Free Market Rules. These are the titles of the units. So Unit 1, do you really need that? So talking about wants versus needs. 2, what makes something useful? So we're talking about resources. Unit 3, why can't you always get what you want? So what is scarcity? How do things come to into existence? All of that. Unit 4, can you have your cake and eat it too? So they're talking about making choices and setting priorities. Unit 5, why do people do what they do? Talking about incentives, talking about how actions speak louder than words. Unit 6, where does value come from? Unit 7, where does value go? Unit 8, why do people produce certain things? Unit 9, how does production create wealth? And Unit 10, what are the costs of trade? I feel like before you can have opinions about something, I get the positive spirit of parents taking their kids to rallies and protests and things like that. I understand, and I'm not criticizing that, but I feel like it's hard to really have opinions when you don't have knowledge or when you don't have experience. And the thing is, kids just haven't been in the world enough to have at least caught something, let alone studied something. I feel like this kind of stuff is really important. So each of those 10 units has 4 lessons within it. So for example, Unit 1, do you really need that? Lesson 1 is what are wants and needs? Lesson 2 is how do wants and needs change? Lesson 3, what do we need to satisfy our wants? And lesson 4, what do you want? Each week, we're just starting this now. Like I said, we've had this for a while since it came out, but we've just always had things going on and been very busy. So it's fun getting into it now. The Tuttle Twins market, you can see we have Unit 1 is this week. So lesson 1 will be Monday, lesson 2 will be Tuesday, lesson 3 will be Wednesday, lesson 4 will be Thursday, and then we'll be done for the week, nothing on Friday. Under that, you can see Tuttle Twins TT History. And this is a fun one. We've actually read this. So this is the Tuttle Twins, America's History. This is actually the first one. I think Connor Boyack, he's the author. I think he said that there are 4 books in the series planned, and the second one came out. We actually have the second one. So we've read most of this. Then we took a break, and so we decided just to start it over again so we can read the first one and the second one back to back. So this is America's History from 1215 to 1776. Connor Boyack has an interesting point here. Why another history book? A simple conversation can spark a new idea. That's what happened to me recently. I was chatting with some friends about American history and how effectively children today are being taught about our country's past. We all agreed that there were problems, but no one seemed to be focused on a solution. So he ordered a bunch of American history textbooks, and he's saying they failed in 2 major ways. 1, none of the books taught about the ideas, which gets into philosophy and context, which I talk about a lot. The ideas that led to America's founding. Sure, they all talked about how colonists were upset about taxation without representation in Parliament, but that's just one piece of a much larger puzzle. None of these books really covered the different ideas, philosophies, and influences that led the colonists to pick a fight with the world's greatest superpower. How can we really understand the events of the Revolution without getting a peek into the minds of those who started it? Good thinking. 2, and I mean, even in court, right? When someone commits a crime, it's what was their frame of mind at the time? It really matters, at least trying to understand. 2, these books taught the factoids of history, but none of them explained why kids today should care about any of it. They didn't even attempt to make history relatable to our modern day or give examples of why history should matter to kids. If we're supposed to learn from the past, not just about the past, then you would think these books would help students do that. They didn't. And that totally jived with my experience growing up going to public school. The illustrations are by Elijah Stanfield, who is amazing. That's just the first page. So table of contents. So there are 11 chapters in this book. 1, a new world of trade. 2, new lands and new ideas. 3, far across the sea. 4, the dawn of human rights. 5, the nature of empire. 6, in the king's grip. 7, blowback in Boston, which ties in nicely with the Tuttle Twins and the Golden Rule, where they talk about revenge and blowback. Someone screws you over, you want to get revenge, and that's the blowback that they get from starting something. So it ties in nicely. Blowback in Boston, the road to war, a recipe for cooperation, loyal no more, and liberty for all. This series is also, it shows Emily and Ethan Tuttle, the same kids on the cover of this book. book. We'll get to this book in a minute. We're going through that and it's a lot of fun. It's not preachy. It's just super interesting and insightful and a conversation starter for sure. Next, we have Blue Morpho Butterfly. So my daughter bought with her tech money, my tech high, she bought the new Lego insect kit. Here's the Blue Morpho Butterfly from that kit. Isn't that pretty? Do you see the bee? Isn't that cute? So we got for tech the insect kit, which came with the Blue Morpho Butterfly, a Hercules beetle, and a Chinese mantis. So to tie that in with science and biology, we are each week, starting this week, going to just do a little study on the Blue Morpho Butterfly. Just learn about it. Why is it blue? Where does it live? Where is it native to? Why do we never see them anywhere? She also has a necklace from her dad that is a Blue Morpho Butterfly, which is pretty cool. And then it says shop. So on Mondays, or at least this Monday, we will be shopping so he can be prepared for that, so that if he needs any hygiene items or if he wants to swing by, Crumble and buy himself a cookie or something, he knows that that day for sure we will be out of the house and that's up for negotiation. Okay, Tuesday, again, Tuttle Twins Market. We'll do lesson 2. We have science, Hillsdale chemistry. I think we're doing number 3 this week. Hillsdale College has a whole bunch of free courses online. And I swear these people pulled the background and philosophies of these things out of my mind, out of my brain. So the chemistry course is, so far, it's a guy who I think runs their science department. His name is Matthew Young. And it's just so cool. He talks about how, chemistry is just everything in our world, right? It's the basic building blocks of everything. And so it's kind of the go-between physics and the earth sciences and biology. And so it's been a very interesting course. Like I said, it's free. There's a quiz you can do after each lesson, and there are lecture notes that you can print off, but just really fun videos to watch, and they really get you thinking. So this is not the first Hillsdale College course that we've done, and we're actually doing 2 of them right now. You can see Tuesday says library, so this Tuesday we'll be going to the library. We go to the library sometimes more than once a week, but I try to at least once a week give the kids at least a half an hour there to grab a book, read, chill, hang out, whatever, and not just running in and running out, dropping things off, picking things up. Wednesday, again, the Tuttle Twins Market Rules course, and then literature. So we are doing another Hillsdale course. There are multiple people doing this one. It's the children's classic literature. It's been really, really interesting. This week we are doing lesson number 3, and it's going to talk about Beauty and the Beast. I have this book. This is actually my book. I bought this at Costco years ago because this guy, I think his name is Scott Gustafson. Yes, Scott Gustafson. His artwork is just incredible. So this is, I think, from Beauty and the Beast. I don't know if you can even see that, but it's really beautiful. So we're going to read Beauty and the Beast either right before or right after we do that lesson about Beauty and the Beast. Thursday, again, the Tuttle Twins Market course. And then we're also going through the Tuttle Twins Guide to Modern Villains book. So this is one in a series, and I think this is the most recent book in the series. It's written by Connor Boyack. It just covers just a variety of people who would be considered modern villains. I'll read some of the names to you. Napoleon Bonaparte, Karl Marx, Leopold II, Woodrow Wilson, who was a president of the United States, Nicholas II, Vladimir Lenin, Joseph Stalin, Pol Pot, Robert Mugabe, Idi Amin, Fidel Castro, and there were more. I read about half of the names. It's Ethan and Emily Tuttle going through it. It's Elijah Stanfield, I think, who did the illustrations. It's very interesting. So when it starts a new chapter, a new person, there's a quote from them and a picture. So we're just reading about one person a week. We've kind of gone through this a little bit, but we're actually going to sit down and officially go through it and chat about it. So this week we have Napoleon Bonaparte, who's the first person. Like I said, that is the last book in a series. There's one about logical fallacies. There's one about heroes, courageous heroes, and there's another one that I'm not thinking of right now, but it's a great series. And then Friday, you can see on Friday, in terms of the solo academics, there's not as much going on. For Algebra 1, Diego needs to finish up, and so there's no videos that day, so it's a little bit faster. For analytical grammar, he's just doing the assessment, and yes, I abbreviated it by ASS because I have to find ways to connect with my teenager through humor. He still has reading for 40 minutes, which is his favorite thing to do. He would do it anyway. And then fitness. So there's not a whole lot. And then in terms of the together things, you can see he has his weeklies, which is on his daily list. Friday is project day. Sometimes we have a documentary, or we we're doing something together or we're just doing something away. And then we also have laundry on Fridays. So on Fridays, we freshen up and get ready for the week ahead. Friday is also kind of like a little bit of a flex day. If we, for whatever reason, got a little bit behind during the week, Friday's a good day to get caught up. That's what I have planned for him. One could see that and go, well, that's not very aggressive. One could look at that and say that it is. I don't know. I don't think it's as aggressive as it could be, but that's because I want Diego to have like a baseline education and expose him to a lot of different things and ideas. And then I want him to be able to branch out and have time and space to do things he's more interested in. He spends a lot of time doing things he's more interested in. And you can see even like with the together things, most of these things are probably below his grade level for him. I think in the schooling system, probably not, but for him, they are. There may be a little more at his sister's level. He's read so much on his own over the years. He knows a lot of stuff. We have a lot of books. My favorite series, I think, for a kid is the DK series. I'm gonna grab a few. Just kidding, I'm just gonna grab two. So this is so DK, let's see, you can see in the corner the DK. So anything that is by DK is worth reading. This is actually a library book. This is a book that Francisca and I are going through right now. But they have a wide variety of books and we own many of them. Diego, he's always really loved reading, and I mean, he'll spend 3 hours a day reading if you'll let him. So a lot of things he already knows. He's kind of even beyond the high school level of understanding of a lot of science topics, for example. He's kind of at the level now of having a lot of space and time for things he's interested in. So for example, something that's not on here is tech. That's a subject with Mike Tech High. What is he doing? Is he just like never online? No, he is. Tech is his favorite thing to do, and so he spends a lot of time doing that each day. He has his own website. It's keenamusic.com. He's really into Anna music. His middle name is Keen. He put it together. We bought the URL. He's built the website. He'll have it hosted pretty soon, but we need to figure out his DNS settings, which he knows because he problem solved it himself. Like, okay, I need help with my DNS settings. He's created an album with multiple songs. He's got probably dozens of songs that he's made. He has an album that is really good that he's burnt onto a CD. He bought a CD burner. He figured out how to burn CDs, and he takes that thing everywhere with him. Now that he's 13, he's excited to be able to have a YouTube channel and post things there. He's learning, we've got the Adobe Creative Suite, so he's learning Premiere, he's learning Illustrator. I don't even know what other programs he's learning, but he's learning different Adobe programs so that he can animate. He also uses Blender a ton so that he can make Anna music style videos and renderings and images for his different songs. He designs things. He has a very engineering mind, and he came up with this idea, I don't know, a couple of years ago at least, called a dot buddy. It kind of looks like a molecule. He has inking pens, and he also loves to draw. So this one, I think he designed 12 of them for the 12 colors of the color spectrum. So this is blue, and blue is a boy. And he's always loved fonts too. Do you see those fonts on there? He's always been into fonts. He can look at a font and tell you what its name is. And then this is yellow, and yellow is a girl. So he designed them, figured out how to make them. I've helped him because I sew how to make a pattern and how, you're going to lose a little bit of the fabric for the stitching. He's got one ball of his dot buddy, and he is so proud of this thing. So proud of this thing. You can see he's got his fabric. We went and bought his fabric. He figured out how many yards he needed. He's got some pieces that are cut out. He made his own pattern pieces, and he's had help with this. He's had guidance from his dad and from me. But he used Adobe programs to make these and to make them precise so that he would have a ball the size he wanted it to be. So he's doing that. He's really into Legos. He's only discovered his love of Legos in the last couple of years, but he loves Legos. He loves designing things in Legos. He loves being on Lego Ideas, the whole thing. So other things, he does the yard. He earns money. So right now the weather is nice, so he does mowing and trimming. He has responsibilities around the house. He makes money, like I said, helping my husband edit some of the things in our business. And he's actually better than a lot of editors that you could pay, to be honest. Another thing is, this is just an example, my Keurig, we never owned a coffee maker till I was about ready to have my daughter, who is almost 10. And that same Keurig we've had the whole time, and it is done now. Got a new one. It died. And so they're going to take that apart. They're going to lay a blanket down. They're going to put on a movie, and they're just going to pull it apart and try to figure out how it works. He's got book club with his dad, which I think they're actually home now. This month they did Discipline is Destiny by Ryan Holiday. He's got other projects that he's doing. He has just random books that he picks out at the library. Like I said, Percy Jackson has kind of been his thing this week. And then, I already mentioned the DK books. So that's what his planner looks like. let's jump to Francisca. Her planner is not an academic planner. It's just more of like a regular one, so it naturally has a Saturday and Sunday on it. Hers is structured differently, but the column on the left is her timeline column, so you can see on Wednesday she has hip hop in there. And then the middle column is like her solo stuff. She doesn't have to do that by herself. I can do that with her, and some of those things I do with her, but Diego's not involved in those things. And then the column on the right are the joint things, which are going to be the exact same almost as Diego's solo stuff. So she has math at the top also. She's in Delta. She's also doing the Math UC program. Delta is division. And I did talk about this in the math video, but this is the Math UC Delta program. It's typically a 4-day program if things move along and there's not a whole lot of like extra struggle. So she's on Delta. So you have pages A through G, and then you have a test. Every like 7 or 8 lessons, you have a unit test as well. The unit test, when she has a unit test, that's a Friday thing. But otherwise, you have A and B for math on Monday, C and D on Tuesday, E and F on Wednesday, G and test on Thursday, and then no math typically on Friday. After that, she has spelling UC. So I mentioned that Diego's doing grammar right now. She's still doing spelling, and the spelling program is also through Demi Learning. So you do spelling UC, all the levels, and then you do analytical grammar, all the levels, and then you do write shop. So she's on spelling UC D, and I think it goes through G, so D, E, F, G. So she still has a little ways to go. And that program is meant to go over 5 days. So it's just A through E, and there are 36 lessons. So I think it's meant to correlate to a school year, but we do spelling year round, so we go a little bit quicker. For the week, when my kids are doing like workbook pages, they each have just a regular folder. This is a Lisa Frank folder. I love dolphins. Diego's is just plain yellow. And I just pull out the pages for that week. So these pages, some of them are math, some of them are spelling. Last week, Francisca was a little bit under the weather, like I said, and so she did not get through all of math or spelling, just some. So spelling, you see, this is lesson number 18. I don't even know if you can really see that. This one is about Harriet Tubman. She's learning about the Underground Railroad right now. She has like a paragraph to read, and then she has to, with colored pencils, it comes with colored pencils with erasers, Crayola colored pencils. She has to color, so just like how Math UC, the manipulatives are colorized, spelling UC is also colorized. She has to like underline the vowel chunks yellow, the consonant chunks blue, the bossy R chunks purple, the tricky Y guys green, the endings pink or red, and then silent letters orange, and then it gives her like a little cheat sheet. And so she just has to go through and kind of tag the whole thing up. This is what it looks like. And then anything that she missed, I just go through and circle it with that color. And then there's always a second page where it's like a dictation, where I read it to her and she just writes it, or she just does copy work, where she just copies a segment of it. Spelling, it's, so there are 36 lessons. So she's on lesson 18. So she's, after this week, she'll be halfway done with D, and then she'll move on to E. And this is the parent workbook, like just so that I can correct stuff. Let me find it. There it is. So there you go. So level D is Americana. When I do the dictation and I read it to her, I can just read it from here. When I correct it, typically I used to just go through and just correct it, but because she has so much stuff going on, I just refer to this. You can see what that looks like. Then she has cursive. She's already learned cursive and keyboarding once, but over the summer she didn't really do much of any of it, and she likes to type her stories out. So she's been refreshing herself on cursive for like the last month. This is her last week doing that, and starting next week she's gonna get back into keyboarding. For keyboarding, we have just always done like an online program called Mickey's Typing Adventure. I don't think Disney actually makes it. I think they like licensed the rights to it because it's sort of janky. It's like from 1996, and the font is really small, but it does the trick and it makes it kind of fun. So Mickey's Typing Adventure. So she's going to get back into that next week. But cursive is only 10 minutes a day. Keyboarding will also only be 10 minutes a day. It's again one of those things where I think doing it frequently for a little while benefits you more than doing it for large chunks of time. It doesn't require that much thinking. It's more just like the hand-to-head connection. And then she has reading time. She has reading time for 30 minutes instead of 40. Same deal, she can read whatever she wants. Right now, she's mostly reading the Little House books. She's like on book 6 or something. And then I have Spanish Read with Mom, and you can see on Monday it's written in English, but the rest of the week it's written in Spanish. So Español leer con madre. We read together, and typically for the week, we read the same book or books like every single day for the week. When Diego was first learning Spanish, I just wanted him to have an ear for it. And a lot of my friends growing up who were not native English speakers, they learned from like Sesame Street. So I did the reverse. I had Plaza Sésamo going. I had Bob el Constructor going. I had Tren Dinosaurio or Dinosaurio Tren. And so we had different shows. We had Amazon Prime. We don't do that as much now, but we'll probably get into that. She and I just read together. We read like a lot of the fancy Nancy books, and there's so many good books. Richard Scarry, the Biscuit book series is in Spanish. There's a lot of good stuff. So we read together in Spanish so that she can start to practice saying it, because she likes to do like mock Spanish, which I used to do too. That way she can develop an ear for it, and it's good practice for me. I'm trying to get back into it, honestly. And then we have Read with Mom for 20 to 30 minutes. So we just read whatever I want to read, whatever she wants to read. When Diego was younger, we did this too. And sometimes Diego and I still read together. He likes to read to me more than he likes to listen to me read. But I love reading out loud. I love narrating. It's like my favorite thing to do. So we read together. She has fitness and she has running 1.5 miles. Same deal with Diego. She can watch whatever she wants. She can listen to whatever she wants to listen to. She can run longer if she wants to. She doesn't have to do this, but if she doesn't get time outside an hour playing, then she needs to do that. It's a backstop thing. She does not do strength training with us. Over time, my kids have done different things. They've done Cosmic Kids yoga. We've done other things, but this is just where we are now. And then for literature, I want to make sure my kids are always doing literature. We listen to Nancy Drew books on Audible, on CD, audio books in the car. The first 6 books, there's a set that are narrated by Laura Linney. She's amazing. I cannot find that she did any others, but she is the perfect voice of Nancy Drew. Like she just, I don't know. Like whoever picked her was like freaking genius. We also, we read literature, just all kinds of literature all over the place, different reading levels. Again, like I said, the family book over the summer has been, we have 100 pages left, has been The Fountainhead. We've had to stop every so many paragraphs or pages to clarify what's going on. But Diego has a large vocabulary. Francisca has a very good sense about people and relationships. And so they just enjoyed it. Okay, but we're always doing literature, whether it's together or her by herself. So right now her literature is the Little House series. And then over to the right, to the together things, there's really only one difference, and it's The Wonders of Nature, which I already showed the book. It's a DK book. It's a library book. It is so beautiful. Do you see the pages are gold? It is just so beautiful. I'm just going to pick a random page. So this is about toadstools. I mean, look at how beautiful that is. It's just incredible. So Francisca is definitely a nature spirit. She especially loves rocks, but she just loves all of it. And right now we are in the geology, the rock. It's kind of cool. This one starts talking about the Mohs scale of hardness and how rocks and minerals relate to each other. The way that it's prioritized, like the first things you learn about and the later things in terms of rocks, the rock and mineral section. It starts with the softest things, so talc, which is talcum powder, all the way up to diamonds, which are a 10 on the Mohs hardness scale. And we're just like working our way up and talking about what different things are used for, which kind of feeds into the chemistry course that we're in. So it's pretty cool. And again, this is just like with science, with social studies, with history, with geography, with all of it. I like to make that fun. I don't like to do a curriculum for those things. They're all boring and dry. We tried it with reading eggs a couple years ago just to see if maybe I wasn't right about it. It was horrible. I mean, it was like miserable. Why learning history? I mean, story is the word in the word history. All you have to do is just read stories. You could learn history just by reading biographies. You could learn history just by learning the history of different cities around the world. Why history and geography and science should be boring is you have to really try to make a kid not want to know that. So we just keep the curiosity alive, and we just read all kinds of different things. We go have experiences and ask questions and don't rush ourselves. Wonders of Nature is something that she and I are reading together right now, and we're going nice and slow. So if something catches her fancy, we have a little extra time to Google it and look into it or see if the library has a book especially about that thing. Going over to the right side, to the right page now, she has a Saturday and a Sunday. Everything on here is pretty much the same as Diego's. Friday they have to submit their learning logs. I help them with that. Sometimes I even just do it for them. Again, Friday is project day, so if they want to build with Legos, if they want to watch a documentary, for example, one documentary that I really want them to see is, I think it's by Rick Burns. I thought it was Ken Burns, but I think it's Rick Burns. It's like the history of New York City, and it's like a 10 DVD series. I saw it years, like over 20 years ago, and it's amazing. I really want them to see that, because within learning the history at that, very up close level about the history of New York City, you're really learning the history of America. You're learning about the history of how people in some ways have always been this way, and in some ways, are kind of shaped by our environment. Very, very interesting. So that's what Fridays are for. Like I said, also to get caught up. Another thing that we do, we don't do it all the time, but in the car. So in the car, we, listen to Nancy Drew, we listen to Kina music, we listen to podcasts. So I'm going to just mention a couple of podcasts that are really, really good. This is also by the Tuttle Twins. This is from the Tuttle Twins, and this is called The Way the World Works. It's Brittany Hunter, who's very funny, and it's Connor Boyack, and then they've had different people also. Ronnie Peck, I think Ronnie Peck is maybe still on there. Maybe she's not, I don't know, but Ronnie Peck is on there. There was another gal at one point named Emma Phillips, I think. So it's really good. I mean, it's a family podcast. It's geared toward kids, but I mean, it's all the Tuttle Twin stuff applies to everybody, but it's in a very digestible, easy to read, enjoyable to take in sort of format, kind of like the DK books. I'm just going to read a couple of podcast titles, just recent ones for you. So how can humans work with AI? How should you negotiate a salary and ask for a raise? And each one is 15 to 20 minutes long. Did women always have property rights? Should we ban TikTok? Who is Woodrow Wilson, which ties in with the villains? How was the income tax created? How can you keep safe while online? Who are the Wright brothers? Pretty cool. Pretty awesome. Another podcast that is good. I mean, there's so many good podcasts, specifically that we've done with our kids. Another one that they've listened to a little bit, but my husband and I have listened to it a lot, is called Philosophize This by Stephen West. He goes in chronological order. They're all numbered. It says the most recent one is number 188. You really should start at the number 1. And he gets into early philosophy and the pre-Socratics and the Socratics and the Stoics. And I'm partial to the Stoics, but yeah, Philosophize This is another great one. So there have been times where I've had different things written down, okay, we're going to study philosophy and fitness and anatomy and finance. The middle column, or the column, I guess, to the right of joint things, that is always changing. For example, a Hillsdale course is usually between 6 and 8 weeks long, 1 day a week. It's not that much. So what do you do when you finish it? Well, you do something else. We've done the Ramsey Middle School financial curriculum. That was 6 weeks. We've done other things having to do with philosophy. We've done all kinds of different things. At one point, I volunteered doing story times at the library, and the kids were in with me on that. The fun thing about that together category is it can always be changing and something new is coming in. It's not like a curriculum that's meant to go through the whole year. You can constantly mix it up. And if there's something that my kids are interested in, like doing some kind of online course tied to Legos and engineering, we can add that and do that. My Tech High that we go through, they have some virtual field trips sometimes. They have meetups sometimes. They had one planned last week, but the weather wasn't good, so they have to reschedule it. But there's other things going on too, but this is just what they have in their planners. And like I said, I want to make sure that we have structure. We have a structured morning, we have a structured day, but part of having a good day is having at least a few hours of time where you can kind of roam, wander, and explore and discover new things that interest you. So that's kind of my goal with all of this. Before we go, I'm just going to show a variety of books that we've read lately that we have really liked. We do fiction, we do nonfiction, we do it all. Here's a Ryan Holiday book. It's called The Boy Who Would Be King, and it is about Marcus Aurelius. The artwork is really beautiful. So I'll just read a couple of pages from this. What does reading books have to do with being a king? Marcus asked. Everything, Rusticus answered. Rusticus was a mentor. Through the pages of a book, Rusticus said, we can talk to people who lived long ago and learn easily what they learned with great difficulty. Look at how beautiful that is. It's crazy. When Marcus finished reading, he assumed he knew everything there was to know. Life's lessons only begin with books, Rusticus said. They don't stop there. Together, they watched officials give speeches. They spoke with wise elders. Like a true Roman, Marcus learned to ride and to hunt and to wrestle. It's not fair, Marcus said after losing to his brother one day. Lucius is so much stronger than me. How do you think I got that way? Lucius said. It's all right, Marcus, Rusticus said. Nothing should encourage us as much as the different qualities of the people around us. That's just a little snippet of that. That's a really good one. That's part of a double series, another one about Epictetus, I think. This is Strange Entanglement. This is a fictional story. This is Matt George. This is not his first book, and this is hard to describe. So I'm just gonna read the back. Itzel has a problem. It's not that everyone at her school shuns her for being from the Yard, a notoriously rough neighborhood on her small Caribbean island. And it's not that her job fleecing tourists hasn't been paying off lately. It's not even that her only friend, Osman, is a boy who lives 3,000 miles away and can only be visited through a supernatural portal. No, her problem is that Osman has decided Itzel is only a figment of his imagination. He just started high school in his suburban American town and, in a bid to rehabilitate his status as a weirdo, he severed their connection. But before long, in an attempt to impress a group of popular classmates, he recites an ancient Mayan curse he learned from Itzel, which unleashes a tidal wave of misfortune to come crashing down on both Osman's school and Itzel's island. Think hair loss, puke fests, house fires, and maybe even murder. It's a really good book. We loved it. We read this one as a family in the spring. Okay, here's another one that really fed Diego's mind, his creative mind, a lot. Disney Park Maps Through Time. Maps of the Disney parks, charting 60 years from California to Shanghai. It actually opens in the middle, and it's just lots and lots. So on the back it says, it all started with the map. Maps of the Disney parks are more than just atlases used by guests to find their way to Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. They are snapshots of a place and time, relics treasured by collectors, and gorgeous pieces of artwork. In fact, it was a map imagined by Walt Disney and drawn by Herbert Ryman that was used to sell the idea of Disneyland to investors. Unfold this book bursting with beautiful maps from when the very first Disney park opened in 1955 right up to today. Discover details on how and why the domestic and international parks have changed over time, and enjoy 6 decades worth of skillful creativity. This is just a random page that I picked. We own that one. This is Botanicum. This is a really well-known book series. There's another one called Animalium, and I think they may have made a third one in the meantime, but this is just beautiful. This is about plants. Look at these illustrations. It's a ginkgo. One more Tuttle Twins book because I know you're loving it. These are toddler books, but they were actually intended to be read by an older sibling to a younger sibling, so the older sibling could learn while they felt like they were reading to their younger sibling. So this is the Tuttle Toddlers, the ABCs of the American Revolution, right here. So I'm just gonna pick a couple of pages for you. So L, Loyalists. Here, let me just show you how pretty. This is Ethan and Emily Tuttle as toddlers. Isn't that cute? So L, Loyalists. Not all of the colonists wanted to be independent. Some liked being subjects of Great Britain and fought against the Patriots alongside the Redcoats. M, Minutemen Militia. Many colonists had muskets ready to use at a moment's notice to defend their families and property from any attack by the Redcoats. N, Native Americans. Native people lived in America before the colonists arrived. While many sided with the colonists during the war, a majority supported the British, who had promised to protect their lands from more settlers. And there are like maybe 6 books in the series or something, I can't remember. There's all kinds of different topics. There's like an innovation one, and anyway, it's pretty cool. This last pile that I have here, this is just to give you a taste of the variety that we get. I believe these are all from the library. There might be 1 or 2 in there that's not from the library, but a bird is a bird. This is how your kids discover what they like and don't like. You just get all kinds of books. So a bird is a bird. It's nonfiction. We have Ghosts of the White House. This kind of reminds me of the Magic School Bus series. The Ghosts of the White House are all the former presidents, and they're all like this author is showing different parts of the White House and then the different presidents saying, oh, I did this over here, I did that over there. This is Jorge el Curioso, Curious George in Spanish. This is a book about seahorses, and look how beautiful it is. Show you a sample. This is seasonal. This is one that we have gotten so many times, Mrs. McMurphy's Pumpkin. Of course, Fancy Nancy. Who doesn't love Fancy Nancy? Every so often, Francisca's like, I need to get another Fancy Nancy. I think I need that again. And then this is another Spanish. So this is one that has the words in English and Spanish, which is really nice. So my colors, my world, mis colores, mi mundo. Learn your colors. in Espanol. It's a butterfly's life, so it talks about the different, being a caterpillar, chrysalis, all that kind of stuff. And then this is Exploring the States, Florida, the Sunshine State. Some of the state series are kind of dated and long, and I feel like this series is not. So it's only 32 pages long, and it just kind of gets to the point. I think most of them have like a recipe. Let's see, food, page 22. And I think this one is key lime pie. And we actually made it like a year ago. Yep, key lime pie. Diego got this like a year ago and we made that key lime pie recipe and it was really, really good. And Francisca's missing Florida right now. And so she got this from the library, but it's a fun way to learn about the states. The Ant and the Grasshopper. I think that this is maybe an Aesop's fable. And that was it. That was my pile of books. That is a peek into my kids' planners, plus a little bit more. I hope that was helpful, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.